Okay, so we did this 2 days ago, Sven, and it was looking like we might get double-digit snowfall in the Twin Cities, or at least somewhere near the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
What in the heck happened?
Slight change. Slight change of
Just a
plans.
slight change?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I had up what did I have here? I grabbed the model run from where did I do with it? Somewhere I had the model
All I
run
know is that you
from the
texted me
other day. Well, now I can't find it.
you texted me a GIF of, like, the European model going from, like, double-digit and then shrinking every update, and now
Yeah.
I know the latest one's like, "Hey, we might get 3 inches of snow." Maybe.
Let
That's
me
the
pu-
European model. I know that's not all-inclusive in what might actually happen, but holy crap, this thing just evaporated.
let me pull that back up from yesterday.
This has been ridiculous.
So this should show up there. Yeah. This was the European model when everybody got really excited Tuesday night. Foot of snow.
Yep.
Probably was on the high end even then.
Sure.
And then progressive model run. This was 6 hours later. This is Wednesday morning's run. Wednesday midday. Okay, 8.6. We can still live with that. And then yeah, here we go. This
This is
is
the George Costanza in cold weather
yeah.
effect.
Wednesday evening, 4.5 inches. What? 3.7 by midnight Wednesday night. Yeah. And so this is what I looked at early yesterday morning. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. We've seen this movie before.
This is crazy. We just cannot get lucky in this state right now.
Yeah.
All right, man. So look at this from Wednesday. The National Weather Service put out this graphic, and you can see over the heart of Minnesota and right through the Twin Cities, it was basically an 80 to 90% chance of exceeding 6 inches of snow. I mean, the travel impacts. I mean, they were right through the heart of the metro, and
Those were the days.
those were the days, man. Because
Yeah.
48 hours have passed, and now you have the NAM model doing this. What in the hell is that?
Gross.
That's
Let's
insane.
hope-
If that
let's-
happens,
Now
we
that's
might be killed.
yeah. We should mention that that's the lowest extreme right now. So let's hope to God that's not happening.
Oh my
And the
God.
NAM doesn't have the best track record. You know, we talked about the other day that the European model is the most accurate model, except in this case, 48 hours out. But yeah, just this is. I'm glad that you brought up on Wednesday because I would have forgot the persistence forecasting. Because it sounds old school, and it is, with all of our sophisticated computer modeling. This is why I think it's hilarious that anybody conspiracy theories thinks that, you know, the government or anybody can control the weather. It's absurd.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah. Yep. And the earth is not flat.
Well, you were just saying.
I saw in Antarctica firsthand. Yeah.
So there was no ice wall. You didn't.
There was no ice wall. We didn't bounce off the edge and then have to come back. But
weird.
Yeah. Persistence, when you're stuck in a pattern like we've been, until the pattern breaks, you should be skeptical. So we all wanted to get excited Wednesday because, oh my gosh, is this finally going to be the pattern breaking storm? And I still would say it would. If this pans out, even if this NAM scenario pans out, I still would argue that we've broken through the pattern because it's at least close by. You know, whereas I was showing you earlier. Oh, I think I got to.
That's it. That feels like a moral. That feels like a moral victory. I feel like I don't want a moral victory here.
Because like Grand Marais has had 6 times the snow we've had, so there has been snow.
Yeah,
it's just the North Shore keeps getting nailed. You know, Duluth last weekend at 6 to 8 inches. So at least there's a track of a storm that is farther south. It's just between us and the North Shore. So maybe that's hopeful that, you know, I've talked about for the last couple of weeks that we're at least looking to be more in this Goldilocks zone of being closer to the tightest temperature gradient, and the jet stream, the storm tracks right near us, whereas it's been too far south of us or earlier in the winter too far north. So at least the snow gun is in the neighborhood. It's just that it may not hit us directly this time. But I think I still have to share my screen, don't I?
Yeah, share yours. I'll pull mine down.
Let's do this.
The photo in the background, by the way, was taken I don't know, 2 years ago when we had a big snowstorm in the Twin Cities?
I don't remember
It's
that.
been a long time since we've had a snowstorm. I think Bill Belichick's girlfriend wasn't born the last time we had a big snowstorm in Minnesota. And I don't know if you get that, but Bill Belichick.
I don't. I'll laugh
girlfriend
anyway.
was like 25.
I just hit the laugh button. Yeah, sports references.
Not
I
your
know.
thing?
I know who he is, kind of, but
Yeah.
he didn't know he had a daughter or anything.
It's not a daughter; it's a girlfriend.
Oh, girlfriend. So he's a younger woman. All right.
It would be like if he had a daughter when he was, if the daughter was born when he was 45, and then he started dating her. It's not his daughter though.
Sort of
That's
like
the age gap though.
Rupert Murdoch.
Good for Bill.
Yeah, good for him. Yeah, money helps. Money and fame. So here is the latest and the blend of the models, this weighted average. And while I think it's still a little too high for us, this is kind of showing what most model consensus is now, where we're going to have this axis of the heaviest snowfall, however much that is. That's still a question. Basically from Alexandria, probably just north of St. Cloud, more like Alexandria to Little Falls to Pine City into northwestern Wisconsin towards Frederick, Rice Lake. And then north of that, totals will drop off. But I think the cutoff is going to be sharper than this. This is too broad, and we just know from watching every snowstorm that it's always going to be a tighter swath than what the models initially predict. And to go back to your NAM solution, which is
the nightmare scenario.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
It does make more sense in terms of the tighter temperature or the tighter snowfall gradient. So where does that actually line up? That's the question, but it does make more sense in terms of that. And even like our high resolution rapid refresh model is hinting at the same thing the NAM is. It just has that snowfall cutting off more down towards Rochester versus the Twin Cities. So
is that the dreaded dry slot?
Yeah, that's the dry slot. So I'll show you what's going on here. This is the extreme example of what's happening in the NAM. And it is just basically, well, actually, I should show you this first, because this is what I had up behind me in our intro. So we'll show you this first. So this is showing low level water vapor imagery. So the satellite imagery, we can hone in on specific levels in the atmosphere and how much water vapor there is. So basically all the yellowish brown is dry air, bluer air, or blue and white is more saturated levels. And you can see our developing system to the west, a lot of moisture and converging winds in Wyoming, into Idaho, Montana. And then you can see our departing high pressure centered over northern Illinois. And that is the problem, is that dry air over Illinois. So if we go back to the NAM and put on, this is low level moisture. So 925 millibar level. We use pressure levels in meteorology. This is basically 1,500 feet above the ground. And so what it shows right now is that very dry air with that cold high pressure, that front that came through yesterday. Remember all the wind? That dry air is centered now across Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. And the problem is that system approaches, remember everything moves counterclockwise, that dry air will get sucked into the system. So this is the extreme example of the NAM, but this is midnight tonight as the snow should be starting and will be falling across central Minnesota. You can see the more saturated air here across central Minnesota. Green and blue is more saturated air, meaning there's more moisture, closer to 100% humidity. But this brown and yellow, that's very dry air. That's 10 to 20% relative humidity. So any snow that falls into that is just going to go evaporate. And so what's happening is the NAM is keeping that dry air over us into the midday tomorrow, because it's going to get sucked in. Because if we put on surface winds, which is going to be a little different than that level I was talking about, you can see that our flow is coming from the east southeast here. So this is 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. The low is centered right on top of Sioux Falls. Again, air flows counterclockwise around an area low pressure. So you have northwest winds in South Dakota, but you can see here in southern Minnesota, our winds at the surface are coming from the east southeast, and aloft at that level I was talking about, 1,500 feet, it's coming directly from the southeast, where if you remember, so here's Twin Cities, if you trace this streamline, basically get to western Illinois. Well, what's going on. What's the air like in Western Illinois at 6 a.m. tomorrow, according to the NAM? Well, it's saturated there, but it's this dry pocket that's ahead of it getting sucked in.
It's sucked in through that counterclockwise motion. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see that the moisture moves east, but we're seeing that drier air sucking in. Now, in the HRRR, it is not as dramatic. It saturates a little quicker just over us, but you can see early tomorrow morning, it's still very dry in the Rochester area. So that's why it cuts off the total. So that's what we're dealing with, but there's still, not to lose all hope, there's still a huge range in the models, and that's what's difficult as a forecaster and difficult to get excited about if you want snow, because it's kind of anything could happen right now. So that's her model. But again, note what the thing to note is the heaviest swath in all of the models is north of us. It's just a matter of, are we a recipient on the southern end of it a little bit or not? And the European model has basically flown the coop all the way to Hinckley into northern Wisconsin. But again, you can still see that basically Alexandria, Mille Lacs Lake into northern Wisconsin swath. We're getting the GFS in. Not exciting, but I'll take 3 inches at this point. It's better than if we get that quarter of an inch from.
It's going to be devastating, especially if we get a dusting of snow in the metro.
Yeah,
I mean, that dry slot takes over. And here's my fear, because, and I'm not a meteorologist, I just play one on the internet. But if you've been watching the models, it feels like the NAM's kind of been leading the pack, and then the HRR will follow suit.
It's kind of been all over the place, though, the last 24 hours.
Okay. Yeah, you know better than me.
Yeah,
I believe the orbs are, at that 1500 layer, changing the dynamics of this system. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, all the models, you are on to something there, though, because all the models are hinting at this. So this is the Canadian model. Look at that. You can see this sort of southeast kind of dry suction moving in there. So
and
it's
yesterday
on, it's on all the models. The American model has it too. It's just farther southeast. European model has it too, just farther southeast.
Yeah.
It's just
yesterday
the NAM is the most dramatic. And this map looks more like reality. It's going to be a sharp cutoff. It's just a matter of, I mean, this is literally what, 50 miles as the crow flies between a dusting and 7-8 inches of snow. Yeah, so, and I do think that's how it's going to set up. It's just a matter of, you can imagine if this wiggles 10-20 miles in either direction, it's the difference between us getting nothing or still 3 to 5 inches of snow.
So check this out. This is this just came in like 5 minutes ago. This is the new snowfall map,
and they're cutting it at
11:17 a.m. 3 to 5 for the metro, 4 to 7 for St. Cloud, Alexandria. It's not showing that insane dry slot. Is there?
But it is showing the general that general pattern, though, of sharp. If you look at the whole map, it is a fairly sharp cutoff on the southern end, because you go from 3 to 5 in the Twin Cities to 1 to 3 in Albert Lea, whereas if you go from Duluth to the Twin Cities, it's not as big of a gradient.
Right.
So it is being reflected in there some. Yeah, go zoom out to the state.
Okay, this is more fun though. The high end.
Yeah,
10%.
Dream on. If you go up to that upper tab, Minnesota,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's got 3 inches or less Duluth. Well, that's 3 to 5 in the Twin Cities, almost the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it's generally showing that. But I talked about this in our Between Just Us yesterday, that this is what the Weather Service does. They're going, in my opinion, going too high for too long yesterday, and then they have to dial it back every so many hours. They cut it back. They were still going 5 to 8 inches. What at their 1 or 2 p.m. update yesterday? And I was just like,
that was true.
At that point, it was very apparent that we were not going to get 5 to 8 inches. Yeah. If we were lucky, we would still get 5 or 6. Half the models were still giving us 5 to 6, but clearly the trend, which started already Wednesday night, was downward in snowfall and actual total water amounts. Because remember, too, what we were talking about Wednesday is several of the models were spitting out 1/2 inch to 0.6 of an inch of water times, a 17 to 1 ratio, which the ratio still looks to hold up. It's still going to be anywhere from 15, 16, 17 to 1 ratio. It's just there's less water content and the track has shifted a little farther north.
So I should totally forget about this 10% chance, the 1 in 10 chance of the high end snow totals.
If that happens, I'll pay for your
You come shovel my driveway.
liquor store tab the rest of the year.
You shovel my driveway. Okay, what's more likely? The 10% chance that we
Oh yeah,
just saw
what are
there?
they showing on their lower end amount?
The low end here. Oh my God.
That's much more likely than the high end.
Wow.
I
Wait,
ran
even for like Alexandria and St. Cloud, 2 inches.
No, that's probably too low there. These graphics are kind of what they do is they take basically that blend of the models and they just kind of tweak it. So that's how they come up with that.
Okay.
And if I don't know if it says it on there, but almost all their graphics, they always say this is experimental, which is a great cop out.
Yeah, I mean, low end 10% chance. So it's basically a slightly greater chance that we only get 2 inches in metro than that asteroid hitting the Earth in 2032.
So when I came,
chance, by the way, good luck.
I crunched numbers this morning, which doesn't include all the latest model runs, which haven't changed too much, but from a few hours ago. And what I came up with was what was about 3 inches for the Twin Cities.
Oh my God.
Was the mean median. And there, but with a standard deviation of 1.9 inches. So that means it could be anywhere from 1 to 5 inches, which is a pretty big range. But so I would say more comfortably 2 to 4 based on the model runs a few hours ago. But basically we can calculate on the fly here what is the chance of 6 inches or more for us, basically based on the model runs this morning. Let's see here.
This is devastating.
You're not going to like this.
I'm not going to like this. Nobody's going to like
this. A 9% chance of 6 inches or more. So they have a 10% chance of 7 inches or more. That's probably too high. And the chance that we get an inch, let's see what that looks like. Oh, better chance of us getting an inch than 6 inches.
That doesn't give any hope to anybody.
Yeah, about a 15% chance of we get an inch or less. So yeah, probably in that 2, 3, 4 inch range, I would say, based on what we're seeing now. But the caveat there is like we've seen in the NAM, it could be there is some bust potential if that dry air does get as far north as the NAM thinks. Hopefully it's not.
So the HRRR model updates every hour, and I just checked the latest update from 11 a.m. and it doesn't run all the way through the whole snowfall event. But if you pull that up, you're gonna see what looks like evidence of that dry slot creeping closer.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, so this is through 4 a.m.
Not good, man. Not good.
I have it up? Are you showing mine now?
Yeah, it's yours. Yep.
Yeah, if we only have 9/10 of an inch at 5 a.m., well, that's most of the show right there.
Yeah, not good.
Because if we put on its simulated reflectivity, well, it's still snowing pretty good, but there's
still a few hours.
There's not many more hours because if we go on the full range here, this is based on the 6 a.m. model run, which goes out a full 48 hours for those watching at home. By 4 a.m., there's only what do we got there? 5-6 more hours of snow.
And light snow, right? It'll be fluffy, but
it'll be lighter. Yeah. Let's see.
So we're
basically a couple more inches of snow on top of. I mean, that could still. I'm gonna guess, just extrapolating based on the latest HRRR run, that it's still going to give us 4 inches, but it was giving us 5 on the 6 a.m. run. So it's trending downward. Yeah. And like you say, it is. Let's just loop this based on the latest run, because this will give us visually a good idea of what's happening. So, yeah, you can see that the snow really has a hard time in southeastern Minnesota because of that dry air. I'm just going to try a different view here from this angle, which looks too far east, but this is going to show the drier air potential more.
Sad. So we're definitely not.
Yeah, look at that dry air just
Yeah.
getting sucked in and swinging right up into southeastern Minnesota.
So this is
Like,
not
this is a
going to be the
huge
largest
gradient.
snowfall of the season.
Probably not.
5.5
It wouldn't take
inches.
much. All we need is 5.5. But yeah, this is 3 a.m. That relative humidity at 1,500 feet is 15 to 30% in southeastern Minnesota, and it's notice the gradient across the Twin Cities.
Why?
So that's why I think the Southeast Metro, my hometown Cottage Grove, might get a dusting, but maybe Maple Grove gets 5 inches.
Who's responsible for putting the Twin Cities right there? Because I swear to God, geographically, it is in hell for like snowfall forecasting. It's always on the edge. Why?
I mean, here's the thing with that. This is like when people say in the summer, "Oh, all the storms go around us, and we don't get any rain."
It's true.
Well, you only notice really when you get missed or when you're on the edge. You don't think of all the other times. And so, I mean, case in point, if we go back to this, clearly on the whole, everybody's getting something. But if you are in Blue Earth County, you do have a reason to gripe. So this is snowfall season to date. There are people on all of central and northern Minnesota saying they're getting missed, but everybody's pretty equal there. But there is definitely a southern Minnesota drop off in those snowfall totals.
Mm-hmm. Brutal. And then it's going to be super cold next week. And
I'll
be in Florida, but whatever. You're going to suffer.
I'll put on some temperatures quick for everybody, because that's now we shift to that as being the most exciting thing. So yeah, this is a weighted average of the models, still in the 20s tomorrow. So the nice thing is, whatever snow we get, salt will work on the roads, and it does look as though it wraps up pretty early now, early to mid-afternoon. So if you just can avoid driving in the morning, the afternoon, evening, things should clear up pretty good. But yeah, 4 for a high on Tuesday, 7 below Tuesday morning. But even worse here, like northern Minnesota, here's Tuesday's highs, barely above 0 here, but all of northern and western Minnesota below 0. And Monday night, could be close to 10 below actual temperature.
Oh, God.
Close to 10 below in the Twin Cities, 20s below across northern and western Minnesota. But wait, there's more. Look at the wind chills Tuesday morning. 21 below Twin Cities, 40 below, 30s widespread below northern and western Minnesota, 40 below northwest Minnesota. So yeah, it's going to get cold. There were some other light snow chances, it looked like, but when the models actually have been hinting at a potential storm next weekend, but do we put any trust in them now? I say no. So here's, we're going to have to go to the evening run. Look at that. Next Saturday, maybe. It's the European model. It's not a huge storm, but something. American model is bigger and farther south. Canadian model farther south. So there's something going on next weekend. The models have been hinting at that for the last couple of days, but I wouldn't hold my breath, let's say.